Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm sitting down with a fantastic guest. I'm super excited to have her on. So for any of you, if you've ever really, truly wanted to understand a spirit, you can't just take a look at the liquid in the glass. You have to look at the soil it came from, the hands that made it, the culture that surrounds it. And very few people have captured that entire ecosystem, both in words and through the lens of a camera, quite like this guest today. So today we are sitting down with Emma Janzen. She is a James Beard Award-winning author, a world-class spirits journalist, and a fixture on the Drinks International bar world. And you know her from her work from Punch, the New York Times, and her best-selling and her defining book of Mezcal. Welcome to the show, Emma. How's everything going?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Me too. I was not aware of your game until recently and everything you've been doing. And once I looked you up, everyone speaks volumes of you. So definitely excited. So you have been busy. What recent projects, what have you been going on? I know you stay doing something.
Yeah. No, it's been a very busy year. The most recent project that came out was in June. It's the second book that I've written with Toby Maloney, veteran bartender from the cocktail scene. It's called The Classic Cocktail Sessions. And it's a really I really am very proud of this book. It's very energetic. It's kind of a different way of looking at these drinks that we think we all know. It's kind of punk rock. It's super cool. And I'm really excited that it's finally out in the world. It just came out in June.
I'm gonna have to pick that up. When you said it's kind of punk rock and energetic,
Yeah.
tell me about that. Can you expand on that for me?
Yeah, I mean, it is in both tone and visuals. So, the idea was Toby and I hanging out with people at like a divey kind of cocktail bar on a Sunday afternoon and the windows are open and it's lovely and we're just hanging out talking about how to make these drinks. How to make these drinks in a way that where you as either a new bartender or as someone who just likes to make cocktails at home can kind of dial in the specifics on these the Negroni, the Martini, the Manhattan so that you can get the right balance, texture, temperature, and aroma in the same way that like a bartender would, at the bar down the street. Basically giving people just little tips and tricks and pathways to follow to improve their skills at home. But it's done in such a fun way, right? So it's just super casual. And with the design, we wanted it to look unlike any other cocktail book that had come before because our approach is so different. Basically, we give every cocktail, there's like a short introduction to what it is, but not its history, because that book's been written a lot of times, right? And then we spend two full pages just telling you how to make kind of like our perfect version of that cocktail. And it's line by line. It's like, okay, and now you prep, this is how you prep your garnish, and this is how you prep your garnish, and this is how you like do it in a way so that by the time you get to the end of it and the drink needs to be garnished, everything has been done in a very intentional way. So the drink will be cold, so that, you're not making a mess while you're doing it, that kind of stuff.
I love that. And as a person who constantly struggles with garnishes, that is the thing I'm absolutely the worst at. I will tell everyone that I will put dehydrated slices of whatever fruit I can find so I can avoid making a single garnish. And that's something, it's just the easiest way for me. So I love the fact that you're approaching it from a fun way that doesn't feel stressful.
Yes, that's exactly the idea. I think there are so many cocktail books out there that are like super serious and it's, this is how we make this cocktail. And if you don't do it this way, it's not going to be good. And it's like, we're telling you how we do it, but in a way that's fun and in a way to make it so that it's less intimidating. And also to make that process like one that you can, like through learning our way, we want you to figure out how you can make it in a way that you're going to love it too. So like you'll be able to personalize it here or there. Um, we're not saying there is a right or wrong way to make these drinks, but
It's a fun way.
in learning how we do it, in theory, you'll learn how you want to do it also.
That's a brilliant approach. And I have been one that when I talk to friends and peers and people that just want to make things at home, there's always that, there's so many steps. Oh, it's overcomplicated. There's like, I need all these extra tools to make a $7 drink like this, or
Yeah.
$14 drink. I need $500 in tools. So that could often be intimidating. So this approach to the book is, you're speaking my language, Emma. You're speaking that
Good,
of someone who doesn't
good.
have access to all that. And there's
Yeah,
one of the things that when you create anything, people often forget it should be fun. So
exactly, exactly. And like cocktails especially, right? Like,
yeah,
it's cool to get nerdy about it and cool to like want to kind of dial in every detail of your craft, but at the end of the day, it's like we're also going to get drunk and like it's going to be fun. So like let's take that approach.
we're here for a reason. I mean, nothing.
Yeah.
Like, but that's awesome. And you mentioned it earlier, and I've heard some of your interviews, and I've heard you speak about it before. But for those at home, I think you hit out a great point that book has been made before. Getting to the history of the cocktails, like there's only so many
Yeah.
times you could hear about this cocktail was developed. Was that something that you felt personally was were you kind of bugged by it? It's like, oh, someone else is another one, or what was that like? What made you choose that
I mean,
approach?
I think it was definitely more of like it has been done and it has been done well, like we have the David Wondriches of the world, we have um, Robert Simonsons of the world, and so we didn't really want to rehash that territory. But also, I think the other like main reason why we didn't want to do it was because none of that information is really helpful for you in the moment when you're trying to like make a technically solid version of that drink, right? And so like let's remove all of distractions and let's literally just focus on like how many ice cubes do you put in and are you going to stir this for
Mhm.
longer or shorter than, depending on what ice it's going to go on. And the little like being present in the moment and not worrying about who invented it and whether that story is real or not even, because like a
Myths.
lot of those origin stories are written by people who, maybe have been drinking at the time, and then it's tall tales. Bartenders are full of tall tales, right? So
Yeah,
I think that was the other reason why we were like, no, let's just not go there.
I love that. And that being said, for listeners at home, you didn't necessarily start in the bar scene, right? You didn't start in
Right.
the spirits industry. Do you mind kind of talking about that, and maybe that's also why you approached it in this fashion?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, my entryway into this world of cocktails and spirits was through writing. I was working at a newspaper in Austin, Texas,
Mhm.
and this was like 2008, 2009. And that's when the cocktail scene kind of started to trickle down to that part of the country.
Mhm.
And no one was really writing about it in a way that was taking it as a serious movement in the same way that they would write about, something happening in the food scene, for example.
That's
Um,
fair.
or even craft beer. Everyone was writing about craft beer at the time and like not necessarily writing about like this new cocktail thing.
Hmm.
It was mostly people just kind of complaining about how expensive they were and how like fussy they were, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, but I started to see these stories. Felt like a movement,
Hmm.
and so I ended up writing like covering the whole drink scene for Austin, Texas, for several years at the newspaper. Um, Moved to Chicago to actually get out of it. I was more interested in getting back into writing about architecture and design.
Mm.
Um, and that didn't really pan out. All of my contacts were in the food and drink scene. I needed work, so I just started pitching, everybody who I knew, and it was going really well. I wrote for Bon Appetit for a while. Um, I wrote for Serious Eats, which had like a very strong cocktail component at the time, under Maggie Hoffman. I wrote for Food Republic under Matt Robard, who now runs the Taste podcast and has his own books. And so it just kind of snowballed from there. Writing about every kind of drink for so long. Also, when I worked at the newspaper, I worked on the web desk. So I, had the technical skills to kind of manage a website
Hmm.
at the same time. And that's how I ended up getting the job at Imbibe Magazine, where I was the digital editor for about 7 years.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And that's where I continued to write and cover, cocktails and spirits and everything. Um, That's where I started to write books with bartenders. That's where I wrote my first book. And then, yeah, I've been super entrenched. I mean, writing about drinks has basically been my full-time job since um, late 2013. And for like the 3 years prior at the newspaper, it was part of my job. So I haven't worked bartending shifts. Like I've
Mhm.
done guest shifts and stuff where I'll go and look cute and stir in a Negroni, or make a mezcal margarita.
Yeah.
Um, but it's always just been a world that I've been absolutely fascinated in. I mean, even before writing about that kind of stuff, like in high school, I wanted to be a barista, and then in
Mhm.
college, I wanted to be a bartender. And so, like, the human part of this world and the cultural part of this world has always been super fascinating to me.
I I have that exact appreciation. Hence, this show, like this whole podcast, is
Yeah.
based off that. Like the people aspect is so intriguing and so much fun. And I don't think you said it perfectly. I don't think bartenders, even to this day, probably get as much love as we talk about chefs. And
Sure. Exactly.
and,
Exactly.
and they are equally as part of a lot of the happiest moments of my life. Like,
Yeah. And so many interesting stories and like cocktails and spirits and I mean any other drink, right?
mhm,
Beer, wine, coffee. All of them have just as much to say about culture and are
mhm.
reflective of culture and certain moments in time, as food is. And so, but I think because not as many people there are more writers now who write about drinks than there ever have been before. But when I started out, there were very, very few. And so it was just this big gold mine of stories, right?
Yeah.
To tap into. It's been a very exciting space to work within.
Did you find it and uh, did you find it difficult when you started to approach that world? Was it, I guess the easier way of saying is, was there like gatekeeping as an outsider? Did you feel that there was kind of people like, nah, you can't, I don't want to interview with you or something to that effect?
Not really.
Okay.
Thankfully, I mean, you know, bartenders and spirits producers and everyone who I would be talking to uh was super open and always really and that's the other
Good.
thing I love about this industry is everyone's really welcoming,
Hmm.
right? Really open, really welcoming and interested in telling their stories. Um I think I didn't have a lot of like mentors in the space,
Mm.
that I think like maybe that's the part that was kind of lacking.
Hmm.
Is like, I think a lot of people hung out, but we didn't necessarily like talk shop, that kind of stuff.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I, with that being said, talking about the spirits and their stories, I know that um, one of the questions I like to ask, especially because reading about you, you describe yourself as a nomad at heart, traveling to find what it means for a spirit to be of a place. After a long trip, like what would you consider your welcome home pour when you get
Yeah,
back?
that's a good question. And the first thing, I mean, really, the truth is usually like when I'm on these trips, because I travel a lot now also. As a academy chair for 50 best bars, I'm constantly like around the globe going to bars and doing the research for spirit stories as well and for books. And on these trips I'm so like the discovery level is so high, right? And
Mhm.
you're eating and drinking all day, all night, every day. And so usually by the time I come home, I'm so tired that like all I really want to do is order a pizza and like have a Modelo. That's that's kind of my typical like I'm home, I'm like, let's order a pizza,
So
please. And like I just want a beer.
I'm not even mad at that. I just wanted to see if you also had the same experience. So I have a lot of friends that are bartenders, and they say I would just want a natty light. I just want something simple. I'm not trying to do
Yeah.
anything. I'm not trying to do anything
Yeah.
extra. I've had all that in my face all day. I just want to have a simple, enjoyable day. I'm like,
Basically. Yeah. Just a wind down beer.
fair enough. Hey, I'm not mad at it. I think it's great. And I know that one of the things when we talked about your writing and everything, there was a point where you were telling these stories also visually through photography. That I was curious about which one came first. I know that you were writing for magazines, and I feel like as a creative, you could just most creatives could just take every outlet. Like you just give them enough
Yeah.
pen and paper, and they could draw you something if you needed to. But what was that? What was first?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely evolved together,
Mhm.
and from a young age, right? So like we moved recently, and I had to, pack up all the boxes and the books and whatever. And I have an entire box full of just notebooks from when I was a kid. So like I've always been interested in writing. My mom's an editor, who in the neuropsychology space. So like if you Google her name, she's got a bunch of encyclopedias of like child neuropsychology and the
Okay.
gender of neuropsychology and stuff like that. And I used to like proofread her manuscripts. So I never thought that writing would be a viable profession. It's not what I set out to do. I actually went to film school. I wanted to work in movies. And I think part of the reason for that is because also at a young age, like I had, my dad gave me his old camera to play around with, like when I was in middle school, high school. So I'd run around with this Canon AE1, I think it was, learned how to develop film in the darkroom as a class. So I've always been fascinated by how you can tell stories through multiple different kinds of mediums,
Mm.
right? And then like exploring the space and like the magic that happens when you put them together. So I find one or the other very limiting, but I think when you put them together, that's kind of like it's so exciting to be able to do that and like see what kinds of new things emerge. And so basically right from when I started to write professionally at the newspaper, I was also taking my camera with me and shooting the cocktails or shooting the bartender. Um, Luckily I mean, I guess they were good enough to put in the paper. So it just
Right.
kind of
It worked
stuck.
out.
It worked out really well. There were a couple moments where I was like, you know what, I just want to be a photographer. Like I don't want to sit at a desk all day and just write. I think there's still part of me that would love to do that. My attempts to actually make it into a paid career completely failed. And so that's just something I continue
Did
to
it
carry
though?
with me
Did it
and I
though?
and
Because it
I
kind of
do.
works with this one. Like it didn't really fail.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get hired to just shoot. I'm trying to pitch myself for a friend's book actually right now,
Hmm.
um, to just be the photographer because I think it'd be really liberating to only do one part of it and not the entire thing.
Mhm.
But I did do all the photography for my first book, Mezcal.
Yeah.
And I also did all the photography for the classic cocktail sessions, the one that came out in June.
All right.
So I am putting it to good use.
It's working out.
Um, yeah, yeah.
And speaking of the book Mescal, like with this book, what brought this up? I know that Mescal is one of those spirits that has a lot of controversy around it, whether people know it or not. There's a lot of political factors, the social factors. There's this is a lot going on, and people just think it's one of the worst things.
Drink.
It's
Yeah.
something to drink. One of the worst things. Oh, it's just like a smoky tequila. If you don't get out my face, we're like you go away. Why that spirit? And because that was a deep dive to write a whole
Yeah.
book. So tell me why that even came about.
Yeah, I mean, I fell in love with mezcal while I was at the newspaper, because it was also around the time when that category was starting to expand beyond that kind of first wave of like Del Maguey and Illegal, Sombra. We were starting to see producers like Vago come into the scene. And I remember just being so fascinated by first the flavor, right? And the diversity of flavor.
Mhm.
Like no two bottles taste exactly the same. Some are, they just taste like being dropped into a dusty desert. And that's just been baking in the sun for days. And then there are other ones that, taste really lush and green and some of my favorite ones taste like I'm not like a huge jalapeno person. Like
Really?
I don't like spicy margaritas necessarily, but like I like mezcales that have like that essence of like a green pepper, like a jalapeno pepper, because some of them have that.
Yeah.
And so at first it was really the flavor and it was just being like shocked with every time I would try one and it would be so different. Because I was used to drinking whiskey, right? Like I was like um a whiskey and Coke kind of girl, like in
This is where
college.
you
And
started and you ended up here.
yeah, I know, right?
That's awesome.
So just being, like of course there are whiskeys that have, subtle nuances between each kind, but and the mezcal, it's so dramatic. And so that I got really excited about digging into the why of that. And then when I discovered that, like, this hundreds of years of history and culture, and the way that it represents, um, the people who make it and the place where it's made, and it's just so expressive. And so the first article that I had run in the newspaper was about mezcal. And it was just like, what is mezcal? Because nobody knew at the time.
Yeah.
And I did introduce it as the smoky cousin of
Did you
tequila,
really?
which I did. Because that's
Oh,
what
I'm
everyone
joking.
needed, that like touch point back then,
Yeah.
like no one knew, we had to frame it somehow. Um,
Agreed. That's fair. That's
and
completely fair. You have to kind of,
yeah,
so people
yeah.
know what we're referencing, kind of, and then you could educate them after.
Mhm. Exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
And so yeah, it's not that, like, I didn't set out to write a book about it. I always knew that I wanted to write a book. I knew I had one in me. But it was the publisher who actually reached out to me about the idea in like 2015 or early 2016-ish. I'd written a story for Imbibe about the rise of the mezcaleria style bar in the United States. And they
Mhm.
read it and they said, "Do you think this could be a book?" And I was like, absolutely, it could be a book. I didn't think that I was the one to write it. Because I loved the spirit, but was not an expert by any means. Um, but when
But
I started to look at the landscape of like written material about mezcal, like there just there weren't resources out there in English that I felt like fully captured like the essence of this spirit, right? Like I didn't see anything out there where someone approached it as a reporter
mhm.
and as someone who like cares about culture and cares about like the soul of the thing. So ultimately I said yes because I was like, oh, I want to read this book, and like maybe I can just try and not fuck it up, kind of thing.
That's fair. That's fair. And
That was the goal.
obviously you didn't. You didn't fuck
Yeah.
it up because you ended up making more books after that. But even when I was reading through it, your approach to it was very much. I think what gives it kind of, you might not have been the expert, but you were approaching it from a still an inquisitive nature. So that is
Yes.
something that people can resonate with, as opposed to something that,
100%.
and I'm going to say this, hopefully I don't fuck up any chances with any other authors to come on, but if you're hoity-toity and pretentious, it's less approachable. Less people are going to want to
Yeah.
read it, because if you're out there like that, so cocky about it and not approachable, not relatable, it just diminishes someone's connection to it. You're approaching it from
Mhm.
someone who's trying to understand the culture and know more and deep dive and share it. That's what the average reader
100%.
wants.
100%. And like, so there were a lot of stories back then at the time, like, which where like the author really centered their own experience,
Mhm.
like in a way that
The
I
book was
felt
about
like
them
it
and not
just,
Mezcal.
yeah, exactly. It just wasn't doing justice to like, the full scope of the spirit. So it was really intended to be like a 101. And I think I don't know. I don't have objectivity about it, but people have told me that I did a good job with it. So
I mean, yeah, you are getting your, I wouldn't say a sequel, but the part two in the series is coming out, and I
yeah,
believe that one's coming out when?
next year.
I don't remember.
So it'll be out next September, which is, so it's a 2027 release. It'll be the 10th anniversary.
And this is to kind of give an updated focus on it, or what's the difference in this
Yeah,
one?
basically, like, there are a lot of second edition books where I think, or I've been told that, the author will add an essay here, add an essay there, maybe bring in some new cocktail recipes, that kind of stuff. And as I've been digging into like the planning of this second edition, it's become really quickly clear that like this book was so much about that one time and place, right? It was about 2016 and what led up to that moment. And so much has changed that like I feel like I'm basically kind of rewriting the whole thing. Like it won't be the whole thing because that would make my editors very upset. But it is essentially going to be kind of a brand new book. And my voice has changed. Like
uh,
my writing skills have changed. My perspective has changed.
and the world of
And
Mezcal has
so
changed.
the whole world, I mean, just in 10 years, uh, everything has changed.
Yeah.
Um,
And we alluded to it earlier, all the other factors that play into the spirit, those dynamics are ever changing and ever evolving.
yeah,
And I'm
100%.
certain 10 years ago versus now, there is so much more information that you probably found and you've dug into
Yes.
and you're aware of that you weren't aware of at the time.
Oh, it's insane. And I mean, really just resources on the internet. Like I had someone, I don't know, remember why I was looking at the reviews, but I looked at the reviews the other day. I think it's because I am mapping out the new edition.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking for like criticisms and like holes and, gaps in reporting and stuff like that. So I can make sure to like plug those up. And someone was like, there's nothing in this book that you can't like easily Google. And I was like,
That's life.
that's true today.
But that's also
It's true
life.
today. Oh man, but like you couldn't Google. I mean, there was just not a lot of information out there. And also like my network was super limited, right? Because I didn't set out, I didn't come up with this idea for this book myself. I didn't set out to do it. I was given basically 4 months to write it with the network that I already had in place,
Yeah.
which was basically like white American bartenders, right? And so like now, I've spent the last 10 years developing relationships all over Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
visiting distilleries, getting more firsthand. I was very lucky with the first book to be connected to a lot of, I think, what are still the industry's best producers.
Mm-hmm.
Ones with long family histories, a lot of tradition. Um, but um, but now I have so many more people like that who I can talk to and get these firsthand reports that maybe also like haven't been written down anywhere
Yeah.
yet.
I also,
Um,
when someone says, sorry, I got protective, I got defensive. I was like, what do you mean? It could be easy to be Googled. Everything can. Everything can. That's not the point in this. Sorry.
It's okay.
You're a better
That's fine.
person than me. I would have been like, excuse me,
Well,
sir.
everything can be, pretty much everything
Yeah.
does feel Googleable these days. So
Yes.
yeah,
Well, welcome to the
it
internet,
makes,
sir.
yeah,
But I commend you for that too, because there are some people who would have been like, "Hey, that's what I wrote at the time," and kind of move on. But that world is massive, and I love the fact that there's so much more attention now to the people behind the spirit, because it's something that never gets spoken about. I had
right.
a guest on from Miwa Haken. She was a fantastic guest.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, was it Fabiola?
Fabiola, yeah, exactly. She's
Amazing.
amazing guest. Loved having her on, and we talked about. I don't even know if we coined a term, but it felt like poverty porn, where often it's
Hmm.
presented as like, oh, this impoverished people and all these things, and meanwhile, it's like a fat cat CEO in California who's making off
Yeah,
their money off of these people that are being glamorized for the struggle that they go through. And I'm like, I didn't know any of this. I just wanted to talk to
yeah.
someone about mezcal, and it put me down this path of finding it all out. And I want to do as much as I can to keep talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, she's incredible. I have learned so much from Fabiola and her classes, the Miwahaka classes, looking at this whole category through her lens, right? Through the lens of her family, indigenous
Mm-hmm.
people who are indigenous to Oaxaca. And there's definitely, she's definitely gonna have a strong influence on the way the second edition looks.
Man, I'm excited. Can I pre-order? uh,
I don't think yet, but hopefully soon.
but I did want to actually, we kind of skated by it because we talked about your recent project coming out that came out, the classic cocktail sessions. Um, I found it funny because I was reading your book, The Bartender's Manifesto, and going through it, and there were some advanced techniques, there's advanced things, and there's some aspects of it. I was like, I'm a novice. I'm intermediate with some of my skill sets and what I know and all that, and access to things I have. But I was like, wow, man, like this would not be the intro book. And then
No.
hearing that this is the cocktail session, classic cocktail sessions, is essentially a prequel to the manifesto. And
Exactly.
I did it.
Yeah, exactly.
That is fantastic. Throughout all of the books that you had, I was like, wait a minute, hold on. When you said it, I was like, that's very different than manifesto. Was when you made classic cocktail, was it with the intent to make it more approachable? All right,
Yeah.
here I am.
The idea, no, you use the word prequel, and that's exactly like what we set out to do. If in a perfect world, this one would have come out first. But with the way that the publishing world works, it just didn't go that way. But no, yeah, the idea is that manifesto is like a boot camp. It's for
Mm,
very serious, it is if it's the tagline is like, if you want to learn how to think drink and mix like a bartender, right? Like it's how to get into that mindset to like to really learn the fundamentals of that craft, right? Like that's a word Toby used so much in that book is craftsmanship.
Mhm.
Um, it's studious. It is uh and Sessions is its kid sister who's just wants to go fuck some shit up, but like in a
In the
fun way,
punk
and
rock
like
way, I love it.
with their friends in the parking lot, we're gonna go skateboarding. Like that's
Yeah.
it's yeah,
Sorry about that. I was like, wait a minute, this is
that's
a
okay.
prequel. This is literally like, because I'm thinking about your books. I'm thinking about the next one, the second edition. I was like, oh, they'll give me 4 of hers because I want to buy this cock. I was like, wait a minute. So it just dawned on me. It's like, look at this. Look at me being slow. It's a long week. Okay.
Okay. It's it. It's Wednesday, so like brains just start to fail, I think, by Wednesdays.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. You're not wrong. But I know that with some of these books you have co-authored versus your solos. Um, what's the dynamic with that? Because I play video games with my friends, and there's very often we can't communicate where people are, let alone putting out a published award-winning book with
Sure.
someone in the industry or not. What does that process look like and for you? Go like for you.
Yeah. The co-author, I mean,
Well, versus
I was gonna say
solo,
they're,
like versus solo. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Like I want to, like my instinct was to say they're totally different, but now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think they are. The process isn't really that different because I feel like my role, I mean, with the co-author books, my role changes from project to project based on what that person needs, right? So like some of them are already good writers. Some of them don't write at all. Some of them just need help getting structure on the page. Like will send me loads of ideas and just need me to kind of polish it together into
Yeah.
something that looks like a book. But ultimately, I feel like my role is kind of as reporter. So I've got, if it's Mezcal, I've got this subject and I'm going to go interview 200 people.
Okay.
Right. And I'm going to hear their stories and I'm going to go see the production and take the pictures. And then I'm going to come home. I'm going to synthesize it all
Hmm.
and then put it down into a book that makes sense. Right.
Yeah.
With the co-author projects, it's more like I just have one person, but I'm doing the same thing.
Mm.
I'm learning their story. I'm learning how they, what parts of their story needs to be on the page. How are we going to organize it? And then with the ones that I do most of the writing on, there's a second layer to it where I'm also trying to figure out how to get their voice on the page so that
Mm.
it sounds like them and not me. So in a lot of ways, it's does that make sense? So it's
Yeah.
very
A
much
hundred
kind of
percent. Yeah.
the same work. It's just comes out differently or
Yeah.
it comes together
You,
differently.
you want to make sure that you're telling their story as like for them as them or help them through that. Like, because you're right.
Yeah.
If you co-write something and it just sounds like you and with a different, like a pen name, that's not
Right.
what the purpose was. You would have just written it
No.
yourself. Like,
Exactly. Exactly.
I think that's difficult in itself, but it also probably speaks to your to empathetic nature. You were to
Sure,
because you
100%.
have to
And just
understand.
listening. Like it takes, I've learned now that I'm on my what number?
I I'll tell you which ones I
There's
have.
I'm like, it's Julia, Way of the Cocktail,
Uh huh. I have
and then
Toby, Jim.
Manifesto, yeah, Meehan, Bartender's Pantry, and then classics. And so
Mhm.
there's the 4 that are out in the world. Right now, I'm in the middle of editing the 5th with a co-author. And I think it was on this one, I realized that like, oh, it takes a certain number of meetings for me to take down what they're saying, but hear not a couple meetings. It takes months for me to kind of hear their voice in my head. So, like, knowing where to put a word, for example, like how they would say a sentence. Like, I know Toby's cadence really well. Like, each one of them has a different rhythm in my head,
Mhm.
almost like music.
Mhm.
And like, and it is so much just intense listening so that I can anticipate. Oh, I know like they would never use that word. So sometimes I'll throw down a sentence or a paragraph because it gets the point across. And then I'll be like, hey, I put this down here as a placeholder. Like, how would you actually say it? And what, I know you wouldn't use the word like super cool, like, but what is the word that you would use?
Yeah.
And then like, that's that like second layer of like polishing and like really kind of driving home character, right? Because the way we speak, the way we communicate,
Mhm.
I think is like what makes a story really, can help make it really rich.
Yeah. I
Because if
that
you've got one bartender, if they tell the same, each one of them tells the same story. Like you've got three bartenders, each one tells the same story. They're all going to tell it differently, right? And
yeah.
that speaks to like how they think and how they're experienced and how they've been shaped. And like all of that stuff is really fascinating.
You beat me to it, but I was gonna make a comment about it's like ordering a drink from three separate bartenders. You're not gonna get
Sure.
the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get the
No, you
exact
got
same
it.
drink from every single person. It's like
Yeah.
maybe an old fashioned, and they could be completely different. No matter you could have ordered it at the same exact bar,
Right.
and it's not gonna come out the
Exactly.
exact same way. Um,
Exactly.
so and that's beautiful that you can kind of put yourself in their space. You get so comfortable
Mhm.
with them. You get those meetings. You work with them so closely that you're
Yeah.
observing and absorbing as much as you can.
Hmm.
That's tough.
Exactly.
That's fun.
It's really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's so creative in a way that like the other work isn't, it's not me trying to come up with a pretty way of saying something. It's like it's a challenge and it's creative muscle.
was that your
It's
approach
really
when?
enjoyable.
Actually, I'm not gonna lie to you. That sounds fun. It sounds a lot
Yeah.
of fun to, especially if you have the skill set to be able to articulate it well and put it down on paper. Because as an author, that's why people hire editors. That's why people hire authors. That's
Yeah.
why because they can't necessarily do all that. They could have these
Right.
thoughts in their head, but they can't put it to paper and convey it articulately. It
Yeah.
sounds like jumbled mess. I could be as creative as possible. If I write it down, I'm gonna need four editors to fix it because it's a mess.
Yeah.
um,
No, exactly. Sometimes I say it's like kind of like being a medium, like the kind of person you go to like try to talk to a ghost
mhm.
because it's like
Or their
the
translator.
ghost thing. Yeah, translator. Yeah, exactly. Like I'm bringing it from this person's head and putting it on paper so that other people, it will make sense in their heads.
That I love that. Is that kind of the same approach you took to when you wrote Mezcal, and when you started to get to know the people and digging deeper? Was that the same approach?
Mhm.
Like
I think,
trying to
with the
tell their
first
story.
edition, yeah, with the first edition, it was such a panic just to try to get it done that I just was like, I'm going to approach this as one super long article and just kind of get it out the door. I
Mhm.
think now with the second edition, now that I'm kind of like getting my feet wet in that space, um, I don't know. I don't know. It's a really good question. I mean, I do try really hard to make sure that like if someone's being quoted, it does sound, that it's kind of like verbatim to what they said, right? Which
Yeah.
is like, I guess not really an answer.
I
I'm
guess
kind of feel like
I guess
a
more
stupid
so.
thing to
Do you put yourself in are you trying to push it to how to best tell the story through their lens, like the people behind Mezcal
Ah,
and the cultures that are impacted and all that? Are you approaching it from like a hey, I'm not this story isn't me. This is theirs. I just happen to be the one putting
yeah.
it together.
Yeah, for sure. Yes. I think it's so important that I understand their perspective and because if I and like the full roundness of that perspective, right? Because if I don't, how am I going to articulate the point well to someone else?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting connection I hadn't made before. I dig it.
No, awesome. Well, here we are, guys. You've heard it here first. She dug my idea. Not, um, with so now with the second book coming up, I know that we kind of is there going to be? I don't want to ruin it. It's a spoiler. That's coming out next year. I was like, is there going to be focuses on the social political stuff? That's not for today, guys. Unless you want to tell us. But
No, I mean, we can talk. Yeah, I mean, we can talk about it if you want, like
well,
a little bit.
I know you're still a work in progress. If is that something that's going to be taking a main stage on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think no, there's definitely going to be quite a bit of it, of that kind of stuff. You know, ideally presenting social issues, political issues, environmental issues. I mean, you can't talk about mezcal without talking about all of those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the goal for me is to present them all in the most balanced way that I can, right? Like as a journalist, If there's something that's controversial or tricky, to present multiple sides and multiple perspectives so that what I want is for people to have all the information they need to kind of develop their own opinions about a lot of this stuff.
Okay, that's fair. All right, I like it. I
Yeah.
like it. I can't wait because I think it's important, like you said, doing it this way. And
Mhm.
with these projects coming up, I know you've also do other things. You said you want to kind of put yourself out there as a photographer. You spend time judging cocktail contests and being kind of a mainstay in that. How do you get into a position of where you're part of that process? Like, hey, going to bars, judging contests, doing these things. Like, how did that bridge happen? Because there's a lot in the middle, and then suddenly you're
Yeah.
suddenly you're a respected part of the cocktail industry. How did
Yeah.
that happen?
I really think it's just that I showed up. Like, you know, I I went to all of the Tales of the Cocktails and I went to all the seminars when I was starting out and I'd go to all of the events in whatever city I was in and um for so long I was like such a wallflower. Like I was too nervous to, introduce myself to anyone or do any of that. But I was still in the room, and I was still learning from people. And I feel like there were so many times where I was like, oh man, like I don't want to go do this thing because like who cares? I'm too nervous to talk to anybody anyway. I'm not gonna get anything out of it. They're not gonna, I'm not gonna achieve any networking here. I'm not gonna like it's not worth my time. There were times where I felt overwhelmed like that, like I didn't want to put the time in. And then I don't know, I just kept pushing myself to just be in the room, just be in these rooms. Um, and I think at a certain point, that helped me like deepen my understanding of the industry, of the craft of making spirits, of the craft of bartending. So that I don't know, this is completely off the top of my head. It might be totally asinine, but like I feel like I got to the point where like I understood how to like how to better tell the stories of these people because I kind of understood their profession better, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Or like I knew
became a
like I
student
knew
of the
like
became a
well, I'm not
student of
going
the
to ask
industry.
this. Yeah. Or like I could figure out which questions were more interesting to ask for stories. And then like and with stories too, like I would reach out to, Julie Reiner and I'd be like, "Hey, can I interview you about XYZ?" And most of the time that'd be like, "Oh, here's an inquiry from, some writer who's out of the blue or whatever." But in so many of those cases, I was able to say like, "Hey, I saw you speak on this topic at Tales or we met in passing, and like, you were getting into a cab and I said, hi, and you didn't know who I was, but like, like that kind of tangential connection, I think helped me like kind of get woven into the fabric of the industry a little bit better.
Yeah.
So it was showing up and then it was just like continuing to write as much as possible with empathy,
Uh,
like you said earlier.
I like that.
Yeah.
There's I know there's a high school coach somewhere sitting around. Who's like the first step is showing up, because
Sure.
it's 100% true. And when you're talking about cocktails and spirits, like there's only so much that of a connection you can make virtually over the phone,
Yeah.
which is so funny to me because even some of the guests that we've had on, I'm gonna shout them out because they're my friends now. This is how far we've come. Tim Bradstreet and Mike Buha there from Forward Slash. They're the master blend. They're the blenders out there. They make this fantastic product in Winter Park, Florida. Left me on red a couple times via email, and when I just started showing up to their events, I was like, hey. I'm Arthur. I've reached out to you a couple of times, like, oh yeah, what's up, man? And by the first or second time I showed up, they're like, this guy's for real. Let's interview with him. Let's hang out with him. They're some of my
Yeah.
best friends possible, and I've done multiple projects with them and all this. But it took for me
Awesome.
to show up. I'm the same dude that I was via email, but this industry is so front facing, and
It really is.
and I think we talked about it about bartenders. I actually put it on a shirt about what a bartender is. It's like a shrink, your best friend, your maid of honor, your your best man, all that. It says, so tip your bartender, keep her secrets, all that.
Wow. Yeah.
I think that this industry is so empathetic that they need to feel that vibe. They need to feel that energy in
Mhm.
person before they could respect or appreciate what you're bringing or what you're about. Without it,
Yeah.
it doesn't exist to them.
Yeah. And just being real, like in that moment too, like, you know, trying to connect with people, not just because like I know I'm gonna want to interview them in the future. Like that was it, like it wasn't like motivated that way, you know? It was
Hmm.
very much like I want to get to know you, I want to get to know your story, I want to know who you are, I want to connect.
Yeah.
Like being genuine about that, right? And not only having it be like having reciprocal relationships, I think like is what came up in my mind when you were talking about that.
Yeah.
Is kind of the difference between being able to report on this industry in a shallow way and being able to report on it in a way that has more depth.
Yeah. That's beautifully said. Yeah. I could not agree more. I think even more so with even with what I do with them, and obviously you're doing it with your books and the interviews and the articles and everything, is being able to get past that front label. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
you're more than just a legado. You're more than just this. Like, how did we get here? What brought you here? And all that. I think they deserve that respect. People in the industry. So
Mhm.
for anyone at home, make sure that you're nice to your bartenders, everyone, and realize that they're not
Yeah.
just there to pour you something. They're humans and they have
Right.
fantastic stories, and
Yeah.
a lot of them are freaking awesome.
100%. 100%.
Well, I know that we are wrapping up, but I got two more questions for you, if you don't mind.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right. What's the number one thing for anyone listening at home you think they should know about Mezcal and the industry and the people behind the spirit?
Mm. Let's see. I I think the biggest thing, and obviously this is changing as the industry continues to commercialize and, foreign investment comes in and everybody wants to start a brand and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But like at its roots, it really is a cultural product and not a commercial one in the same way that a lot of other drinks that we drink are, right? A lot of drinks that we drink that we enjoy, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying them, but they were invented to make money, right? Or they were invented from a good idea, or like, I'm not saying it's from a bad place or whatever, but like mezcal is a culture. It is a cultural product. Um, it is, representative of its people. Um, and that can interest you or not, and I think that's fine. But in ideally, I think in knowing that, you can approach the category in a way that's like just kind of respectful. And I don't mean necessarily like I don't know, I'm getting tongue-tied because I have so many
It's Wednesday.
thoughts at the same time. Um, there was there the when mezcal was coming up in the US, there was this narrative about, you need to sip it, you need to respect it, etc. And like that's not exactly what I'm trying to say. Because I feel like at that time, that was important to teach people that this was a spirit that is well crafted in a way that tequila wasn't necessarily at the time. So it's another one of those positioning things. We're going to position this against tequila in order to make a point. Um, I think that point has kind of like been made, right? So when I say cultivate more of a respect for the spirit because it's a cultural product, I don't mean you have to sit down and like and take tiny little sips and be very precious about it,
Yeah.
or only go and have flights and learn, there's education. All of those things are really great. But you can also like respect the spirit by like hanging out with your friends and drinking it too. Like I think there's I guess what I'm saying is like you don't have to be like snotty about it, but just like understanding it, I think is important.
I love that. And yes, enjoy the spirit and don't be a snob about it. I will always be a major proponent of don't be a snob. It's meant to be
Yeah.
enjoyed and fun and make a memory and hang out with your friends and do that. Or share with someone who's never
There's
had it.
so exactly. There's so many people who I think do end up gatekeeping and turning off people who might otherwise, really fall in love with the spirit. And like, why would you deny someone else that
I've always hated that.
just to make yourself look cooler? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you don't know about this. Just
It
give
doesn't
me,
even work. Like, you
like,
don't look cool. You look like a jerk.
thank you. Oh my God, I hate that. I've seen that's for another day. That's for another day.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah. And
Longer combo.
and for the listeners at home, it's the last call. What would be your deathbed cocktail if you had one last drink or pour, and why?
Ooh.
It could be a drink. It
Um,
could be a drink and or pour. Bonus points if you wanted to do both. Yes, I'm keeping
okay.
points.
I mean, since we're talking about mezcal, my head is definitely in the mezcal space and the agave spirit space. And because I do, I love so much the way that it expresses, that the time and place, right? It's a snapshot of a time and place. The one that comes to mind, I had in Jalisco, earlier this year. In the Sierra de Amula, I don't
Yeah,
pronounce that correctly.
Sierra de Mula.
Southern Jalisco, close to Colima. Santos Suarez and his son Ricardo are making agave spirits down there. I'm pretty sure they call it, like, locally they call it tuxca. But it's a it's a an uncertified mezcal, uncertified raicilla, if you want to go that way, because it's made in Jalisco.
Okay.
But it was just phenomenal. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. Um, just absolutely stunning, and the spirit is made in these it's fermented in these like kind of underground like rock kind of um vessel is not the right word, but like they basically just carved the rock out
Mhm.
of the earth in like the 1600s. And so they ferment it in the ground there, and then it's distilled in a Filipino style still. So you've got the hollowed out wooden tree trunk.
Nice.
And the flavor, it's so transportive. It just tastes like that place to me. Like I think I said it earlier, but like it's like just sun-baked earth and rock, like volcanic rock, and because it's close to the volcano, and
Mhm.
it's just phenomenal. And so that one specifically came to mind right now, but really just like any like super traditional, ancestral mezcal, I think would be a lovely way to go out.
Love that answer. I'm not mad at it at all. So, for anyone listening at home, do you have any upcoming projects outside of obviously your most recently released book? Anything you'd like people where they can find you, subscribe, hire you as a photographer, or
Yeah. Um, I'm basically in hiding for the rest of the year trying to finish the books that I'm working on. But yeah, next year the second edition of Mezcal will come out. Next year there's a cocktail book about Mexican American cocktails
Ooh,
that I'm currently in the editing process with Nacho Jimenez from Super Bueno in New York. That's just super exciting. It's going to be a phenomenal book. I'm so
I'm
excited
so
about
jealous.
it.
I haven't been there yet, and I was in New York last year, and I hit like 12. I had like 12 of the 50 bars on my list, and I was
Yeah, yeah,
exhausted.
the New York list is always so long. Like it's impossible to see
Crazy,
everything.
but
So
that's
that's
next
going to
year.
be, I'm super proud of that one too. That one comes out next summer. So that one will come out first, and then Mescal will come out in the fall.
Okay.
Um, And I'm on Instagram. That's the best way to find me. It's just my name, Emma Janzen. And there you can see some of the photos that you can hire me to take for your book. If you need cocktail photos or distillery photos, let me
Yeah.
know.
And I didn't even get to talk to you about how do you capture the cocktails in such a way that take it away from just being a brown liquid in a glass. Because I would love to pick your, because yeah, we'll talk about that later, but that's also
Next
an
time.
art form in
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah. We'll have to all come back. We can talk about Mezcal politics. We can talk about more about photography. Let's do it.
We can talk more about the cocktail snobs, all that. Like,
That's right. That's right.
awesome. But thank you, Emma, for
Cool.
coming on the show. Guys, and everyone listening at home, make sure that you give her a follow, hire her as a photographer. She's trying to break out, even though she's been already successful. Emma, give yourself credit. And obviously, check out the Classic Cocktail Sessions book. I'm going to order it after we hang up. And I, for one, enjoy having Bartender's Manifesto here, even if it's just to be nerdy about the advanced techniques. So definitely, and the Mezcal book, it's a beautiful book. Get ready for part 2. So looking forward to it. As always, guys, take care of yourselves. Drink responsibly. Don't drink and drive. Don't do anything dumb. And if you are enjoying what we're doing, give us a 5-star review and pour a drink with a friend. Take care, guys. Be good. Bye. You know, there's nothing quite like mixing up a refreshing summer cocktail or pouring a neat glass of your favorite spirit and stepping out into your patio as the sun goes down. But down here in Central Florida, we all know the one thing that could instantly ruin that perfect evening vibe: mosquitoes. You're just trying to enjoy the tasting notes, and instead you're swatting away the local wildlife. That's why I'm thrilled to partner with Burn Termite and Pest Control. Summer is right around the corner, and Burn is here to help you reclaim your backyard. Their targeted mosquito treatments are exactly what you need to keep your outdoor spaces comfortable, relaxing, and bite-free all summer long. So don't let bugs crash your next patio happy hour. Give the local experts at Burn Termite and Pest Control a call today at 321-297-7985 to get your yard summer ready. Again, that's 321-297-7985. Call Burn Termite and Pest Control, and cheers to a pest-free summer.